help me a little bit. So you do 180 names on the shirt per edition, correct?
Yeah, so as I was putting the journey together, I was like, how can I represent mental health and recovery? And part of the reason I picked mental health and recovery is because almost every day back on social media, I was seeing somebody post about another loss of life to a drug overdose or suicide. I was like, I want to remember people. So I told people that I was going to put together a shirt with names, and then a bunch of people started giving me names. So I was like, I got to figure out a way to, cap the names to be able to fit it on a shirt with representation. So this right here is the 11th edition of the shirt that I have in front of me for y'all in here. There's 180 names on each shirt, 90 on the front, 90 on the back. It says a walking testimony on the front above the names, and on the back it says the journey of a lifetime. 180 names of beautiful souls that are no longer with us due to mental health and or recovery issues, drug overdose, suicide, etc. Even though they are no longer with us, they are still being remembered and getting the journey of a lifetime, where the 180 specifically stands for taking a 180-degree turn in the opposite direction from the things that are taking the people that we love and care about. And that is not just something that I talk about. It's a 180-degree turn that I took in my own life. It's something that means something to me personally. I also have a banner here that has the first 10 editions. Literally 1,800 names on this banner right here, and another 180 names. We are 20 short of 2,000 right here of, people's brothers and sisters and fathers and mothers and sons and daughters. And it's such a real thing.
And this is obviously, too, with obviously consent of the family and permission and stuff like that, right?
So I do have a pinned post that's always on my Walking Testimony Facebook page for taking names for the next edition of the shirt. It's a pretty detailed post, and in the post, I do ask that if you are not a family member to please try to get permission. I will say, I know that I have permission for the majority. I don't know if I have 100%. Because I haven't personally asked every individual family, but I do write all the names, and in hopes that it is being respected like that. I have had family members reach out and say, hey, somebody submitted a name, we don't want it on the shirt, and I have taken that off before the shirt was ever put together and things like that.
Definitely, and that's why I was wondering, because I know you had posted that. So this is just like a 180-degree turn, right? That was like the concept of the shirt, because we all turn around. We don't go 360, because if we go 360, we're still back on what we're doing.
Right back to where you're going.
Exactly. So when you decided to like start doing this, when you were over in Florida, let's go through like your first week. Let's go through your first week of walking. So you started in Jacksonville Beach, Florida. And what was your first day? How many miles did you crush?
January 1st, 2022. I want to say I did like between 22 and like 24 miles somewhere in just to the heart of downtown Jacksonville. My parents came and picked me up the first night. I stayed at the house. The second night I stayed at the house because the day I got taken back out there, literally my first 5 miles, I got my first flat tire. And it was right then and there. I was like, I got way too much stuff. Then I had to get myself some tire supplies. I think the 4th or 5th day was whenever I hit the Florida-Georgia line. I had a little thing of firecrackers that I lit and threw at the sign. And at that point, before I got my hernia, I was like, I'm going to do 10 burpees and add 10 at every state line. So, like, the Florida-Georgia line, I did 10 burpees on video at the line.
So, how many states have you been through? You still doing burpees at each state line?
I don't do burpees anymore because at the Georgia-Alabama line, I did burpees on a bridge at nighttime with a bunch of traffic coming on a live video.
Humid.
And the thing is I always did them twice because I would do them on a live video, and then I would do them for a video to post.
So you were doing double the work.
I was after the walking, but after I got the hernia, I stopped doing burpees. Do you
think you got the hernia from the burpees?
I think that played a heavy part into like all the force that I used to put on my body before I started the journey, and then just pushing that cart in some situations that I was in. I definitely think it played a part for sure.
Yeah, and so you said you were laid up for 2 months, so you had a surgery. Was it like a hernia, like in your gut, on your?
Right on my bladder, like in my pubic area.
Wow.
I was doing a dance challenge on TikTok in an old abandoned building that I found up in Alabama on this hill. And then like I went to go use a tree, bro, and then I saw this giant lump, and I'm like, oh my gosh, what is that? And I freaked out. My first thought was like, I got a tumor. Like, this ain't cool.
I got cancer.
So I go on on Facebook, and I was like, I need a doctor to call me ASAP. My mom's best friend's like a nurse, so I got a hold of her. She called me. She's like, it sounds like a cyst or a hernia. She was like, you should probably get to an ER and get it checked out. So the most miles I ever actually did in a day was 36 miles walking into Tuscaloosa, Alabama, just to make it so I go to the ER the next morning to get checked out. They ended up telling me it wasn't bad enough. I walked to Colorado with a hernia, and then I had to stop for 2 months.
Damn, that's that good American medical right there. Like, oh, you're good. Just rub it off.
Oh, it was
elbow
bad,
grease.
Man. It was bad. And that was like the first half of the journey. There wasn't many people following the journey, dude. There was days I was on the side of the hot concrete just crying, dude. It was bad. I had to get a hernia belt, dude. I literally had to lay down and push in my intestines every day and put on this hernia belt, which caused mad chafe every day. Just to make it through. And at that point, there wasn't no, like, trying to hang out in a bunch of towns. It was literally, I want to finish walking America as fast as I can to get this thing taken care of. Like, everything that I wanted to do just kind of got thrown out the window until I had the surgery. So it was actually because a big part of that was after I finished Coast to Coast, I was like, I missed out on so much. I missed on 5 states because of a hernia. I was like, I need to walk a little bit more. And then it turned into now I want to do all the 4 corners.
Yeah. So when you were laid up, like, were you in the hospital for 2 months? Were you in, like, physical therapy? Like, how did you manage to stay 2 months in Colorado? Like, your supporters helped you out? Your family helped you out?
No, so I met my girlfriend on this journey. Her name's Paige. I met her walking through Enid, Oklahoma. So at that point, she came and visited me a couple times, like in Kansas and somewhere in Oklahoma, and all of that. So her birthday's late August. It was the beginning of August. I actually stopped to work for a lady because I knew she was coming out for her birthday. And this lady, I ended up working for her for like 2.5, 3 weeks, and she gypped me on $900 and paid everybody on the site but me, dude. It was a bad situation.
Wow.
And that kept me from even being able to buy my girlfriend's birthday dinner at that point. And this was way before I started monetizing through any type of social media or anything like that.
You were out there getting donations.
This is when I was struggling. And this was many $2 to $10 days in my pocket going through that. Like, there was no way I could have stayed in Colorado for 2 months like that.
Yeah, that's why I was like, I was like, how you pulling that one off? But I mean, at least, you got gypped, but at first there was a kind soul. I mean,
right. But she came and picked me up. She hung out for her birthday. Then we drove back to Oklahoma, where I just rested for a few weeks and just kind of chilled. And then her mom and her drove me on September 18th, 2022, back to Colorado. September 19th, I had the surgery. Right after the surgery, it was an 8.5-hour drive back to Oklahoma in the back seat, dude. It was bad, man. It actually ended up being a way longer drive. Yeah, dude, it was really wild. But I healed up at her house, and then I picked up, like I mentioned earlier on the first segment, on day 209, November 9th in Manitou Springs, Colorado, and saw snowfall the next day for the first time.
That's crazy, because I was pushing his cart, and I was like, wow. First I had some downhill. He was nice with it. I had some downhill. And then I came up to that first hill, and then that's when I had dropped that question. I'm like, what's the most elevation gain you've had in a day? And if you want to touch on that, the most physically demanding day of this walk.
So, if I'm not mistaken, this was the day after or 2 days after Christmas in 2022. I was coming out of Ridgeway, Colorado, and my climb was 1,991 feet up a mountain with snow on it in less than 9 miles. So pushing, and at that point my cart had all my winter gear and a bunch of stuff, and it was probably closer up to like anywhere between 130 and 150 pounds that I was pushing in the cart. It got to the point where every 3 steps I would stop and scream. And I was like, Bubba, it hurt so bad. But we made it to the top.
Yeah, so the walk down must have been amazing.
So it's funny, as I was coming up to that mountain, I saw the semi coming down in the distance, and I'm looking at my GPS. I'm like, there's no way I'm about to climb. That can't be my road. And a few minutes later, the semi drove by me, and I'm like, no way. So I started looking at the colors of these cars driving down this mountain, and a few minutes later, the colors of the car would be driving by me. I'm like, I have to walk up this. I went live on Facebook. I was like, guys, this is crazy. I don't know if I'll be able to push this. I'm going to need some help. By the time, and my reception was getting bad. By the time I made it to that, I had already started pushing up. I had somebody on the way that got there right after I made it to the very top. But the thing about that is, literally a mile after that, or less than a mile, There was some gnarly, like 1,000-foot drop-off, knock guardrails on like sketchy 2-lane road with snow on the shoulder that it would not have been safe for anybody to walk. It's not even really safe to drive. So those people did drive me around that to a hotel. The next day I walked from the hotel back to the other side of that little, around the canyon, just to kind of try to take pictures, be like, yeah, this is why I couldn't walk this. I don't want a car to plunge 1,000 feet because of me. You know, so.
And that's up in Colorado. Isn't that, is that Interstate 80 or what roads were you on?
So Interstate 80, I actually walked a tiny section of that in Colorado up closer to Grand Junction. This was a little bit further south. This was like really further south in Colorado.
So was it like you were almost out of Colorado?
Yeah, I had to reroute at one point and go from like somewhere up south of Grand Junction, but there was like a 60 to 70 mile just absolutely nothing in the snow that I got driven like so many miles outside of a town. I never, anything like that, I did reroute like 3 times in Colorado. Anything, if you've ever seen me get a ride anywhere to a store or get picked up back to lodging or anything, I always get driven back to where I left off. On the reroutes, I never counted anything in the car, but I would get dropped off so many miles outside of a town and walk into that town just to do something and count the miles that I walked into that town. So I was originally supposed to go up in Colorado, right up into Wyoming. By the time I made it into Utah, Wyoming had like 10-foot walls of snow on the interstate. It would have been impossible for me to walk and completely unsafe. Like, people, I think, passed away in their cars in the snowstorms. So, like, I was thankful that I ended up making that reroute, which ended up taking me through Moab, Utah, where I got to jump off a 400-foot cliff.
Yeah, you got the, what was it?
Base jump.
Yeah, base jumping.
Yeah,
into
man.
the Grand Canyon?
No, out in Moab.
Okay.
Moab. But I am going to be walking to the Grand Canyon.
Yeah, so what part, let's talk, because we're kind of wrapping up here. Got a few minutes left. If you want to fulfill my listeners on the rest of your journey, and just kind of what the road ahead holds for you.
Absolutely. So for anybody in the local area, tomorrow I'm actually going to be taking off from the Belmont Shore area, walking over to Huntington Beach. I'm probably going to do 2 to 3 nights in Huntington Beach, maybe even an extra couple of nights as I cover some distance, because I found a pretty decent hotel for a low price over in the Costa Mesa area, and I heard it's a pretty decent area.
It's very nice.
So I'm probably going to do that, and even maybe use that as the spot to cover a little bit distance. But this next week I'll be coming through Newport, Laguna. August 4th, I finish, closer to the Borderfield Park. So sadly enough, the most southwestern point, recently they just did a temporary close on Borderfield Park, the beach itself, to go to that most southwestern point. So I'm probably just going to walk to the park entrance itself. Yeah, so I'm probably going to walk to the park entrance itself and then just call it that. Because that's basically the most southwestern point that I physically can go.
Can physically go.
Legally.
Well, if you really want to push the envelope, look up the...
Probably not.
Well, I'm just saying, if you want to get to the, like, actually on the border, if it's going to keep you from it, if you go to the outlet stores down below San Diego, I only know this because the only time I've been to San Diego, I went with my father-in-law, R.I.P. Rob. He was like, hey, man, he's like, the border's right outside. I was like, what? He's like, go take a walk outside. You're going to see it. So you walk out, and you go, like, literally, like, 250 feet, and there's a chain link fence, and then there's a dugout thing, and there's barbed wire, like prison, for, like, 50 feet, and then there's the road, and then there's the wall.
That's crazy.
And here's the experience for me with the border. I was just a tourist kind of. I just wanted to see. And my whole thing was, I seen all those ripped clothes and that. I was like, honestly, man, if you make it through that, like, welcome home. Like, I just, like, personally, like, I just can see, like, how hard people have to fight to get into this country. And it was crazy, too, because a Border Patrol agent came right up on me from the other side. I was like, what are you doing? I was like, I've never been to the border before. Like, I'm just checking this out. I've never seen an international border in my life. So if you did want to get super close and go to the outlet stores in San Diego just to voice that.
True that. Well, I'll judge it as best I can. But either way, August 4th is my finish date for walking the entire West Coast. And with that, that's like Long Beach up to Cape Flattery. So I walked like the highway in Washington twice. I did the math the other day. Altogether, it's over 2,000 miles of the West Coast that I've put in. By the time I make it down there, that'll put me about 5,500 miles walked across. I am going to be taking a small break. But if anybody ever wants to come walk with me, if you ever like catch me on social media, a walking testimony on all platforms. Some of them, you just type in some underscores with my Instagram, my YouTube. But guys, I post my routes a little bit. I would love to have y'all come and join. Just like Andrew came and walked with me the other day. Make sure you stretch good and wear good shoes.
Oh, I stretched great. I think where I messed up was the sunblock.
Yeah, I didn't have much sunblock that either, so I had somebody bring in some at the end of that day.
Definitely got some battle scars from that day.
Oh man,
that's gnarly. He picked me up, and when we were hanging out in the garage afterwards. He's like, "It's like you're good." I was like, "Yeah, man, I'm just good, but I know I'm gonna get sunburnt." And so like a couple hours went by, and then I just started to see it set in. And then when I got to my house, you get in the bathroom with that light, and it was like, I was like, "Oh man, it's been pretty brutal showering." Let's just say that. Nice cold showers, a lot of aloe. So hey, Kendall, we got about 3 minutes here. One thing that I always like to do with my guest, and we're going through a tough time right now. What's one piece of advice you could give someone or the world right now?
One piece of advice. Easier said than done. So many people, it's easy to go look at somebody struggling or acting funny on the streets or this, that, and the other, and just automatically cast judgment and put them down or things like that. Earlier today, I was just looking at the ground, looking at my cell phone or whatever, and a dude walks by me by my hotel, and he was in a position. And he stopped and said, "Hey, have a good day," and walked by me, and I just stopped, and then we talked about, like, you matter, and then he just gave me a big hug, man. He said, "Thank you for talking to me."
You might have changed his day.
He said that he needed it. Like, there was way more to it, but it was really, really good, man. I was able to give him a You Matter bracelet and gave him a couple Gatorades that Diane had hooked us up with.
Yeah.
Guys, you never know what anybody's going through at any given time. At the end of the day, the only thing guaranteed from the day of birth in any of our lives is sadly enough death. We don't need to bring it to each other any sooner. All the hate for absolutely no reason. If we don't like what somebody's got going on, if we can't learn to agree to disagree, or can't learn to offer a respectful, positive solution in a kind way, then we don't need to focus our negative energy over those people. We need to use that energy and turn it into positive energy to focus on ourselves. But at the end of the day, there's only so much I as one person can do for mental health and recovery, even though I'm walking across America. I want to encourage everybody. You don't have to go give people the money out of your pockets and all of that, but it's nothing to hold a door open for an extra 2 seconds so somebody don't feel like a door slammed in their face. To look at somebody that might be going through it or crying or just sitting on the side of the road, just say, "Hey, I just want to let you know that you matter, like, you're better than the circumstances you're in." You never know, just saying the 2 words, "you matter." I've had people all over the country pull over on the side of the road and cry with me and tell me their life stories that they might not even tell to anybody else.
Might even tell a therapist or something.
So be kind to yourselves, be kind to each other. It's okay to have bad days, especially for men, and this is for everybody, but for men, it's with the stigma that comes with it. It's okay to have emotions. It's okay to have bad days. It's okay to cry if you got to. We are all only human. It doesn't make you weak. It doesn't mean you're not strong. It means you're human and you're real. But love yourselves and love each other. It can really go the distance. That's the biggest thing I can ever say is love each other and never forget that you matter, you have value, you have purpose, and we do recover.
There we go. And guys, we are going to be signing off here. It was such a great talk with Coach Kendall Ray, a walking testimony. And if you guys want to support his journey and what he's doing, he just said a walking testimony on all social media, correct?
Yep. Facebook, A Walking Testimony. Instagram, YouTube, A_walking_testimony. And you can find links to other stuff through those as well.